How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VGWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Ara Still,
Fenurian,
and Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw. Or you can join us in our Discord server by going most easily by going to vtwproductions.com, finding one of our recent show posts, and clicking on the No Excuses logo, which should link you directly to our Discord server, where we have a number of channels that you can post all sorts of crap in, but mainly are going to see bad memes.
Bad memes.
And Serathis' posts about Doom mods.
Yes. Although, apparently now if I post a really disturbing GIF in there, it gets deleted.
I deleted that for my own health and safety. This is a health and safety concern.
Yes, it was.
This is not about censorship of content.
Told you I had to share the pain.
Damage from having to see it.
I'm very glad I have GIF preview turned off in Discord.
Yes, you should be. So, on the stream today, and as probably a lead into my week, is one of the games I've been playing this week, which is 2 Point Hospital.
Yeah, I've seen that come up repeatedly on Steam lately.
Yep.
Like, it just constantly flashing it at me. It looks sort of like Theme Hospital or something.
There's a reason for that. It basically is Theme Hospital. There is
I can live with that.
Almost no difference. It's Theme Hospital with a new coat of paint, and everybody actually looks like they did in the old cutscenes. Weird, Wars and Grommet people, in other words. So yeah, if you've played Theme Hospital before, and you like Theme Hospital, then this is just that. It's got a new set of weird illnesses and death traps / medical equipment, I guess. If you haven't, then it's a hospital management simulator, which is extremely silly. Oh boy. So I'm going to start rebuilding this new hospital right here on the show and see how horrible things go. It's a game where things are very easily set on fire for no apparent reason.
Well, that seems to be the case in a lot of management sims, though. Like, disasters come out of nowhere at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, but unfortunately, unlike most, a disaster could involve a clown infestation.
Well, that's not exactly beyond the pale, considering the sort of things that get treated at that hospital.
Yeah.
Like, if it's anything like Theme Hospital, you've got afflictions like Bloaty Head and the King Complex and that sort of thing.
Well, the King Complex has been upgraded now. Instead of thinking they're Elvis, they think they're Freddie Mercury. Complete with mustache, big teeth, the whole bit.
No shirt.
Oh, he's got the shirt. He's got the gold jacket.
He's got the shirt. Okay, he's got the gold jacket.
Yeah. So, Freddie Mercury, what do they call it? Rockstar or something like that. Yeah. Other ones include Lightheaded, where they have a light bulb for a head, because reasons. There is... I'll probably point them out as we go along. Pandemic. Everyone's got pots and pans stuck on their head. That's apparently a medical affliction, is you walk into a hospital and you've got a pot stuck on your head. I don't think it's even actually stuck. I think it's just placed there. Helps to actually build the right room, doesn't it? So yeah, there's also, of course, the dreaded mimes. Nobody wants mimes. Nobody wants mimes.
I think that the first episode of Rainslick Precipice of Darkness is the only accurate treatment of mimes I've seen in video games.
Where they're eldritch abominations?
Well, they worship an eldritch abomination.
Yes.
The silent one.
Yes, that's right. Never trust a mime. Let me see. I've got these new... That's actually a new one. That's someone with their leg in a cast and an arm. That actually looks like an actual illness or an injury. What's that doing here? One of the things I really do like about this game is what they've done with the announcer. I'm pretty sure it's actually the same voice actor who does the announcements as did in Theme Hospital. But she abuses her power. Horribly. not including the actual announcements, where stating that things are going wrong, which they inevitably will. She just seems to make random announcements for her own amusement, like informing somebody that their car is being taken away to be cubed. Just because.
Well, I seem to recall that there were certain announcements like that in the original as well.
Yes, there were. Here we are, need reception. So yeah, it's a good game. Probably not necessarily worth the price, the asking price if you're not a fan of Theme Hospital or if you're not familiar with it. But definitely worth it, I think, if it is your sort of thing. Alright, what else did I play this week? Not much, really. It's been a nuts week. I suppose there's one that'll tangent into Vol's week as well, and we tried Destiny 2.
Yes, we did try Destiny 2.
Yeah, should we come back to that or just hit that now?
Well, it's up to you.
I'm easy
because
either way.
it's probably going to be one of the first things I talk about in my week, so...
Yeah.
I kind of mean not having done very much about that.
Yeah, I'm working 6.5 day weeks at the moment, and it's not pleasant. Not remote. Well, the money's pleasant if I can actually get any time to enjoy it.
That's always the problem with money acquired via doing long hours, is that you don't. You're trading the extra money for the time which you would enjoy whatever money you have. So
yes. What else did I actually do this week before we get into that? Because we could probably talk about Destiny 2 for a while. That's not really about it. Still chipping away at Guacamelee 2 because that game is still very, very fun and very, very silly. As far as media goes, I have started going through Worm at Ari's recommendation.
Yay, I have somebody to talk about it now with.
Yes.
I have more than enough long-form fanfics to read without needing to embark on something where I have to learn the world building from scratch.
Yeah.
It is a monster. It is huge.
It is quite large. I'm at Arc 7, I believe now.
Oh, so the thing has happened where he's rolling dice to see who lives.
Oh no, that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, that might be next chapter.
I think I'm getting close to that. The mystery, the big reveal of who the possibly bad guy is, has been made.
Oh, which one? It's the early arcs. They don't really build into anything until post I guess arc 8. So you can spoil pretty freely until then, and it won't impact people.
Okay, the guy who Taylor is working for? What's his name now? I'm blanking on it. It was very
Coil.
Coil, thank you.
Yeah.
The guy with the snake on his costume.
Yeah, that's Coil.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're being introduced to Coil finally.
Yes, he kind of had a walk-on appearance earlier on, but didn't do anything at that point. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, Coil's a really good villain. He's one of the better human ones in the series. He lasts for a long time, all the way up until he's involved in the story until Monarch, which is arc 16.
Yeah. At this point of the story, it's Taylor's trying to be a double agent and infiltrate the villain group, but she's kind of made friends with them and seems to be digging herself a really, really deep hole.
Yeah.
Really deep.
Yeah, it's her thing is doing the wrong things for the right reasons. That's the running theme in the whole story.
That definitely seems to be her shtick, I think, at this point. Why would you do this? The hero has told you this is a really dumb idea, and you're dumb for suggesting it, but you go ahead and do it anyway. Stop it.
Yeah. You do get to see both the interludes help a lot by showing that the heroes aren't telling her stuff for no reason, and that she probably should listen to them at least a little bit.
It seems to be they're trying to downplay the whole adults are useless trope.
Yeah, the biggest thing Worm has going for it as far as a story told is the interlude chapters. that cut away from Taylor's POV and go into another character's POV. Any character,
The dog,
heroes, villains,
for
or
example.
whatever. Yeah. Bentley gets a chapter. Bentley the dog. Is it Bentley that gets the chapter? Or is it
No,
Bruce?
it's oh, which one was it? The biggest one, biggest dog. Oh,
Oh, Bastard.
no, not Bastard. Haven't even
Judas. That's it.
Judas. Thank
That's
you.
right. She gets more dogs
Who names
later.
their dog Judas.
A
Hell-
character who calls himself Bitch.
Yeah, she's the powers mess with people when they get them and make her think like dog. So
Yeah.
she makes tough, edgy names for her dogs.
And to be fair, calling herself Bitch is pretty appropriate. She is kind of a bitch, but she's a bitch for reasons.
I love how in the story the heroes refuse to call her that and just insist on calling her Hellhound for PR reasons because they can't go around saying her name in public.
Yeah, which just pisses her off even more. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I like a lot of the characters, how things are hooking together, except I really kind of do want to smack Taylor upside the head.
You'll want to do that a lot, but at least when you want to, it's justified and you know why she's doing what she's doing. It's still dumb, but you know why she's doing it.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm also going through the audiobook version, which was it's a fan-made project. It's not done by professionals, although Rain is kind of good enough to call himself a professional, at least by the time Chapter 7 rolls around.
Yeah, after he gets his footing with the first few arcs, Rain's really good. And he does the majority of the chapters, although I think he does at least 10 of the 30 arcs for the audiobook. Maybe a few more.
Yeah. Some of the guest chapters, I guess they're done by donators or whatnot.
They're just volunteers,
Yeah.
basically.
Not so
People-
good.
Yeah, people he could pay pennies or he didn't have to pay at all. Because he
Are
had
these
to...
things that impact the canon?
Yes, the interludes do impact the canon.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
some random hick can come in and just write whatever they like into the story?
Rain is pretty good about not sticking the terrible people on the plot important ones.
Yeah. You get,
Like-
yeah, I don't think, are actually written, or the interludes written by, guests?
But no, they're written by Wild Bill or J.C. McRae.
Oh, okay, good. So they're
So,
official
yeah.
and canon. Good.
Yeah, they are 100% canon. They were done as donation incentives for his already crazy writing schedule.
Yeah. That's good, because there's
So-
there's a few very important character building and plot elements that pop up in those interludes. Like, you can skip them, and they'll get introduced to you later, but you'll probably be a bit in the dark for a while.
Yeah, the way it happened while it was being written was he would put up a list of characters and donation thresholds to meet, and when you donated, you would select a character whose interlude you wanted to see at that particular point in the story.
And I suppose people inevitably chose the dogs.
Yeah, he only does one interlude per character usually. I think there's one exception to that, and they go off the list
Yeah.
ever, like in the whole series. So most characters get one at least.
Yeah, anyone of any importance, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Worm a lot, especially for a web original. Like if you're reading it and you keep in your head, this is just a web novel written by some random dude on the internet with a stupid work schedule. It's really, it has problems. It falls apart at a professional level, but I mean, if you hypercritically analyze it, there are problems there. But I like Worm.
Yeah, but that same
For
criticism
what
can
it
be
is.
really leveled at just about anything.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, the protagonist needs to go smack upside the head. But
I mean, if it's just a case of level of expectations, like you can prop up any fan fiction that way as well. So
yeah, but then you remember that fanfic.net is a thing, and the abominations that live there that
Yeah.
call themselves
like
art.
Harry's writing.
Yeah, that exists.
that
But
that does exist.
Yeah, a lot of the later part of the story is Taylor trying to fix the problem she's making while she's inexperienced and bad right now.
Yeah.
I don't know
like
if you're
you-
talking about a character or the writer sometimes.
A bit of both, I think.
There is one chapter in one arc where Wildbow just goes around with lampshades and hangs them on everything stupid he said in the first 4 arcs.
Actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, like somewhere in arc 23 before stuff hits the fan, he just goes around and says, "Yep, this is why the school teachers were evil." They were and stuff like that.
No, from that chapter at least, the school teachers aren't necessarily evil. They're just, institutionalized incompetent. The way every school seems to be.
Yeah, but he'll do stuff like go into detail about why they are that incompetent, i.e. the world's ending.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty good excuse.
Superpowers. A bunch of people with superpowers suddenly show up and everybody's a WMD. Uh-oh, society doesn't quite function anymore. We have to adjust to
it. Yes, indeed. But
yeah, he goes around using that to highlight a lot of the earlier silliness.
Yes. So yeah, going through it, it's fun.
Pretty consistent from where you're at now, though.
Yeah. I can definitely see where you've drawn your inspiration for your Fragments universe. And
the power system is very, very similar.
Well, I say drawn inspiration, I mean, ripped off whole hog sometimes.
The power system, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Especially.
Yeah.
The power system has been practically stolen from Worm, at least as far as power acquisition goes.
Yeah. Because
I really like that idea.
It is a pretty cool idea.
I did steal names from it, not characters, but names, because they have so dang many. And I'm the worst at writing names. So I had a list of like
everybody ends up called
all start with J?
Yes.
Yeah, so I had like a list of names from Worm, Hiroaka, and Marvel just in 3 columns of browser windows. Just stealing names from them as I needed to name characters while I was writing it.
Imagination is dead.
Names are... Finding so many names when you're writing that many NPCs into a universe is hard.
Yeah.
And takes way too much time. You'll never get the project done if you're bad at it.
Yeah. So you just steal them.
Yeah, and I'm terrible at figuring out names for people. Otherwise, they'll all start with J. And
yes.
Really confusing.
Also, does knowledge acquired through reading it damage your capacity to fool them into doing silly things in the campaign?
If you've read Worm...
Would your campaign work on a group of people who have all read Worm from start to finish and know it inside out? Or would it just break the whole thing?
What I told Fern was no characters are XPs except for 2, and they're side characters and more like cameos. Mm-hmm. But I do crib like every name in the book from that series, so you cannot associate the character name you've read in Worm and its personality with the character in my setting. Yeah. It doesn't work.
One of these days,
I just stole their names.
Yeah, one of these days we'll actually get around to playing that, because I considered a bunch of character ideas for it and realized going through this now, because the character concept I originally thought up is actually Bitch. So she's in. I thought up her power set more or less. Then I thought of another one which was kind of based around Hammerspace and Acme products, but that's more or less Leet, who is useless.
Leet is an awesome character idea.
You're too shamed?
He shows up dressed as Bomberman.
Leet is a superhero who can build anything at all, but it only works once.
Yeah.
And then it never works again. And he wasted all his best inventions early in his career on faffing around. So now it seems like his power is actively trying to sabotage him by just messing everything up.
Well, at one point, actually, when he first makes his on-screen appearance, he pulls out the actual Master Sword and then falls flat on his face.
Yeah.
And drops character. It, breaks it, done. No more Master Sword for him.
I think Leet actually lives to the end of the franchise, which is kind of impressive. Not everybody does.
No, I didn't think they would. His partner, Uber, is also a lot of fun because he... Not so much what his power is, because it's kind of... It's actually ridiculously overpowered if he was, in any way intelligent. Like, he can be suddenly an expert at anything he puts his mind to. But he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot with intuitive aptitude.
Yes. And he speaks in caps, pretty much. He has to declare and overemphasize and ham it up everywhere he goes.
Yeah, they're bit characters, and you get to see them in a more realistic light later in the story, and see other people around them and how other people view them in the villain community. And it's
As idiots.
they are the butt monkeys of the villain community in Brockton Bay.
Yeah. So yeah,
But,
I will recommend it. When I'm at now, the story is really kind of starting to get going, and yeah, the protagonist Taylor, I think, is about to run into her first major oh crap moment.
yeah, the first major boss fight happens in Arc 8, I'm pretty sure. It was 7 or 8, I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
And it takes the entire arc to do one fight.
that is a
Then
big fight.
Wildbow rolls dice to see who lives in that arc. And Taylor was not exempt from the dice roll. If she'd have died, a character called Igus would have been the new protagonist.
Okay, Argus hasn't appeared in the plot where I'm at to yet. I
No,
think.
she gets squished. She gets squished and gets a one-off mention.
No, I guess it was. I think he's the guy who has innumerable redundant systems in his body.
It's either that or it's the girl with the power suit.
Okay, yeah.
forget.
No, no one with the power suit showed up yet.
She was the backup character in case Taylor died in Arc 8. So she doesn't get a whole lot of character development, and she's going to die next chapter instead.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's why she's just a background mention.
Everybody's going to die. Enjoy.
Yeah, there's but yeah, if as far as my tabletop universe is concerned, the power system's incredibly similar, and the only character that you would have to worry about if you Red Worm is Chevalier. He's a pretty close XP. Everybody else is just stolen names.
Not the Fate Chevalier, I hope.
No, not
Who's
that
useless.
Chevalier. No, the PRT dude Chevalier.
All right. So yeah, I guess I'll call it my week at that. Yeah, check out Worm. It is a lot of fun.
Just you gotta chew through a really slow start.
Yeah, the first few arcs are a bit of a slog as the world's kind of established and the characters are starting to get established.
So it's often quite hard to convince me to embark on those things. Oftentimes, I know that I'll really enjoy them.
Mhm.
I know that, but the sheer amount of time, I'm not a quick reader. It takes me a long time to read something. I tend to ponder over it for a great deal of time. So it's a humongous commitment of time for me to read a long story.
Yeah. So it's 30 something arcs.
It's 30 arcs and an epilogue and a prelude into Ward, which has started and it's going right now.
Yeah. The arcs, each arc, I think at this point, if you're going through the audiobook version, is about 2+ hours, depending on the arc.
Each arc, well, the early arcs are smaller than the later arcs, but the early arcs are around 7 chapters long, and each chapter is about 40 minutes.
Yep. All right. So yeah, give it a check out. It's there is a sequel in the works now, so I need to catch up on everything else before I even look at the sequel.
Yeah. Ward is the audiobook for Ward is at least done entirely by Rain for the main chapters. No guest readers do any main chapters so far.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Far along
And
is
we're in-
Ward?
It's written up to Arc 8, early Arc 9, late Arc 8, somewhere around there. I think that's where we're at.
Okay.
And the audiobook's up to Arc 6. It just started Arc 6 like this week.
Right.
But yeah, you get 2 new chapters and 2 new and the actual story itself every week. Both Rain and Wildbow are stupid, and they keep their work ethic and take it very, very seriously.
That was a horrible time for the audio to cut out there.
Oh, I was just saying that.
What it sounded like is that you were insulting them.
Yes.
They both are very serious about keeping their work ethic. They release 2 chapters each, so 2 new ones written around Arc 8-ish, and 2 new ones coming out from Arc 8 or Arc 6 book every week.
Okay, I think we got most of that.
There you go.
Most of it anyway.
Good grief.
I might go kick my.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go kick my internet during the break.
Yeah, what is going on there?
I have no idea.
I don't know why it always seems to get worse as soon as we start the show. Like on Ari's end, nothing ever changes. Like, since Fern's doing all the technical stuff on his side, I don't have to do anything. Ari doesn't have to do anything. We just keep using Discord as normal.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, though, it knows when we've started the show.
And catches fire just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'll bump the router at the break if it's still having problems.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, the last thing we're talking about is, of course, Destiny 2, which is free on PS Plus if you have PS Plus
which is like PS Plus isn't exactly free. It's expensive, but you get your money's worth. Like, I don't think I've ever owned this many games for a console before.
Yeah, it's $15 a month and you get free games. Well, free.
So presumably, this exercise in freebies is to shill for their new expansion.
Oh yeah, it's
To
blatantly
try and get
that.
people hooked. And the reputation, the extant reputation for Destiny 2 is people clear the story content and then quit because there's nothing to do unless they're really into the PvP.
Yeah, I am not.
And given that, given that Gabe and Taiko are really into the PvP, it must be accessible to plebs because, no offense to those guys, but they're kind of plebby when it comes to competitive gaming.
I think they're kind of on our tier, pleb tier.
Yeah. Except they play games for their job as well, so they get more time than we do.
Yeah, plebs unite.
But, so that's where its reputation, broadly speaking, is currently standing, and so they want to try and improve their user base by basically selling the game free to people so that they get hooked enough to buy the expansion.
Especially since they're putting out that brand new expansion, yeah. So, I'm actually kind of surprised to say this, but I was having fun with the game.
Yeah, I was having fun with it. I was not having fun with it at first.
Not initially, no. It took.
I was sort of
took a bit
annoyed
more
at it because everything that it was doing was like, it was starting to really bother me how much detail there was in the environments and how none of it did anything and there was nothing hidden anywhere. But that's just how the early parts of the game are. Like, the tutorial areas teach you the wrong things, basically. They teach you very little about how to play the game and how the game works, and they teach you that there's no reason to explore. Both of those things are bad, because there is lots of hidden stuff to find if you dig about, although it's not always there. Sometimes things are in a place one time but not another time, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are hidden things to find, and the game is heinously complex as far as its arrangement goes. But it's probably not complex in the strictest sense so much as it is complex because they never tell you how to work it.
Yeah, they are very bad at actually telling you how to do things.
Like the game feels to me in every respect, from direction to story writing to whatever, that it's not a standalone game. It just so happens to be Destiny, like the 2.0 patch for Destiny 1 that you've got to start a new character for.
Yeah, so a lot of our time, once we got the game up and running and started enjoying ourselves, we spent a lot of time walking around trying to find the plot.
Everything is a capitalized noun.
And it's a bad generic capitalized noun.
Like, enemies are like the Cabal, and important plot entities are like the Traveler and the Light and all that. Everything is just a noun with a capital letter, and you have no idea what it means, and the game constantly assumes you already know.
It's the Hurge.
It's very frustrating. The Hurge.
The Hurge.
Yeah. It's very hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah.
It's very, very much...
But
it's like, it feels like to call it a sequel would be to give it too much credit.
Yeah.
Like, because in a sequel, they usually reintroduce some things. In this one, like, it picks up where the previous one left off with a time skip. That's what it feels like. I don't know where the previous one left off.
Yeah. You get kicked in the face by bad guy face kick, I guess, and lose your powers, and then you find a piece of the moon, and now you've got your powers back. Yay, there's the plot.
Yeah, well, and the bad guy is also one of the, for reasons that I can't quite explain all the way, the least inspiring bad guy I've ever seen.
He's got a scrotum for a head.
Well, aside from the fact that he's got a scrotum for a head and his best buddy is a Vogon,
wearing Digimon skulls.
Besides all of that, I don't really get a villain vibe off of him. Like,
no, he's just kind of a dick.
He's like a dude with a long health bar. You know how sometimes when you're playing a game, rather than when they need to have a boss encounter, but they don't really want to do anything to the storyline characters, they'll just add a guy who's like, he's a regular guy, he might have a name, but he's not important, and he has a long health bar. Like, that's the impression you get from this guy. He's just like a guy who's really tough. And that's his thing. He's tough.
And he likes to kick people in the face. That's it.
Like, he's clearly got, you know, he's clearly just a survival of the fittest type guy in that particular mold of, like, we're the super predators, therefore we belong in charge, and we should be the ones dictating how all power should be used, and, you know, humanity is weak and pathetic, so we're going to rule you. Like, it's all very... I guess the motivations are too boring, and his design is too boring, and, yeah, everything about him is too boring. Maybe I am over-accustomed to ridiculously flamboyant Bishonen villains from anime, but this guy is so not interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a similar vibe to what me and a whole lot of other people seem to get from, like, these guys are just boring.
I don't know what you're talking about because the keywords are missing.
I guess.
Like, every time you're about to say something which will give context to the rest of your sentence, the broadcast stops.
Every time. It's uncanny.
It's like it knows which is the most important word in any sentence you say to give the entire thing meaning, and it just removed that one word.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna kill my internet.
Oh dear. So yeah, it's fun. How to put this? The game is fun, but it feels like it's somebody else's fun.
Yeah, like I feel like the feeling that I get from it is slightly less hostile than I got from Warframe. Like, when I tried Warframe out, I was dumped into an unknown world which proceeded to kick my butt up and down.
Space ninjas, get good, scrub!
Destiny, it feels like it's that with the edges filed off to make it a bit friendlier.
Yeah, like
it didn't kick my butt up and down, but I still didn't understand anything that was going on.
Yeah, it's welcoming. Like, you can just pick it up and play it and enjoy it by running around in circles and shooting things, or actually more efficiently punching things.
That was the thing that really got me, though. Like, I feel like their grinding pace, if grinding is your thing, their grinding pace is right.
Yes.
Like, it's similar to Borderlands in that respect, I think. Like, I played for a couple hours today and basically didn't do anything except circled the church in the first zone, shooting anything that moved. And I had a good time shooting anything that moved, getting to grips with the controls, because I'm very, very bad at FPS.
Having drop pods land on your head.
Controls, and I am very, very bad at using a controller to play FPS.
I've never really understood why people can prefer that. It just feels inferior, even though Destiny is very forgiving with its auto aim system.
I'm extraordinarily bad at FPS, so the amount of bad that I am that is additional with a controller is sort of hard to gauge. But yeah, so it's I feel like they flood areas with enemies at the right pace that you can, you know, not get completely snowed and so forth. And you can quite happily just grind away without too much trouble. Like, I was just happily able to circle that church and blow up whatever I met, and every 10-15 minutes I'd get a piece of loot that was either interesting or a minor upgrade, just from general playing, not killing bosses necessarily or anything, although there are respawning elite enemies that you can beat up, and then you'll get a code for a treasure cache or something like that. But it's quite there's lots of ways that you can just derp about and achieve incremental progress, it seems, which is sort of my thing, because like I don't necessarily have the time to devote to big stretches of gameplay at the moment.
That said, though, excuse me, I can easily see though where a system like Eververse would ruin the game, where you can just come in and spend money and get gear.
So is this a thing that they launched? Like, what is Eververse and where does that sit in the hierarchy of being?
It was pretty bad for loot boxes. You could go into
don't tell me about how good it was. Tell me what it was.
It's a standard loot box scheme. You just shell out your money to get a random box of stuff. But that stuff was generally a higher level or epic level gear. So you're buying power. And that never ends well. But, yeah, I can see where that would be a problem. Because a game like this, half the fun is going out, getting your gear. If you're just buying it, where's the point?
Yeah, I don't understand who would do that, but that's like, how do I say? Okay, so I played Borderlands 2, and I used to play it quite a bit with my flatmate at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in Borderlands 2, there was a promo chest in the town, which could be opened using special keys that you could get at promotional things.
Yeah, or just occasionally for that, just give them away on Twitter.
Yeah. The thing is, we discovered rather quickly that once you had a key, it would record that key in an editable file, and you could give yourself as many keys as you wanted using that line. We found this very early on. Like, this did not take much inquisition for us to figure this out. For me, that just meant I stopped using the keys entirely. Like, occasionally I would use one. I never used as many keys as I actually got legit. So I feel like I didn't, cheat or anything. I don't think I used as many as I got legit. But I would use it once in a while when I had been on one of my legendary unlucky streaks and my best weapon was like 40 levels behind my character, which, at that point it becomes impossible to play. But generally speaking, I just stopped using them. But for my flatmate, it broke the game.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he knew that there was an optimal way that he could get optimal weapons by editing a file rather than playing the game meant that he couldn't play it anymore. Like, he just couldn't bring himself to do it because he knew that what he was doing when he was playing the game was doing the wrong thing, the wrong method of getting items, because getting items is sort of like what drives you forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. It took me a long time to get over that feeling with games.
Yeah.
I don't know
so
either.
This is what I'm saying. When you introduce a sort of like a poisonous shortcut mechanism there, it can do severe damage to motivation to play your game.
Yeah.
When people know that there's this other route that you can take, which shortcuts the primary method, yeah, you're doing yourself harm. You're not actually making your game better. You're not making your game better, and you're not actually attracting people to your game either. I've never actually met anybody for whom, you can purchase this gear in order to play at the level of a person who didn't purchase gear. Like, I've never met anybody for whom that was an attraction.
No, that's always a big turn off for me.
Like, for people to want to play a loot fountain game, they have to like loot fountains, and buying gear is not loot fountain.
No.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So put the fountain back in your loot, I guess.
So there's just adding that mechanism in just seems insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to add like really, really fancy exclusive weapon skins that people can buy just to look blingy, like, I can accept that. I can understand that. I have a profound appreciation for bling.
Yes.
But actually gear?
No. Yeah, actually undermining the core principle of your game, just don't.
Yeah, it's a silly idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even... I don't think it's even on the level of evil and cynical. I think it's just silly. Like, you're stupid. Why did you do that? You're stupid. Stop being stupid.
Hitting him with a roll-up newspaper at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, this is so dumb that I'm going to tell you you're stupid so that you know that you're stupid, and the reason I'm doing that is so that you feel stupider when you didn't listen.
Now stop being stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so
it's fun.
The game, I think that the biggest strength that the game has that I have seen lately, thus far, is the pace at which it rewards you. Like, because it drip feeds you little rewards all the time. You don't I guess that the reason people stop playing is that they end up with WoW raid syndrome by the end, where they aren't getting anything of benefit 99% of the time. But the leveling process seems to be paced pretty well. Like you potter along and you keep getting little bits and pieces, which are a slight upgrade, and you don't have to go back to the shop to sell things, which is incredibly useful.
Yep.
But I think that it's fun, but the other thing that sticks out to me about it is how little it distinguishes itself from anything. I don't even feel like it really has. I don't feel like it really has its own identity visually.
No.
It just feels very generic.
Very skyboxy.
Well, but the thing is that everybody does pretty skyboxes these days.
Pretty skyboxes are the thing to do.
Like when you want, to find a place for your gorgeous animated abstract 2D art, you stick it in the skybox. Like that's just what people do.
Where those filthy players can't interfere with it.
Yeah, but I don't think that there's anything about the aesthetic that really, really stands out. Like Borderlands solved this by having a unique aesthetic for the entire game, and like Warframe solves this by basically putting no limits on how flamboyant you can be.
Yeah,
like whatsoever. And Skyforge does a similar thing. No limits on how utterly flamboyant you can gear yourself out to look.
What? Sorry, I just found that I've neglected to build a toilet in this hospital, and there's just a gigantic turd laying on the floor there. That's classy.
Yeah, you want toilets in your hospital.
I should probably put toilets in this hospital.
Yeah.
That was a derailment.
Yeah, I've totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, so I think I really can't recapture what I was saying now. This turd is just on the floor now.
Yep.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how to solve this problem. But yeah, I think that they don't have much of an identity, and I think that disease is going to get passed on to Anthem as well.
Yeah, Anthem's got enough problems because it's EA behind it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe people don't care that much about aesthetic. I do. I think that you really need to have a way that visually identifies your game as your game, and I think that is why, say for instance, the Persona games have been so successful relative to other JRPGs. I don't actually think that it's as much to do with its mechanics or its story or its social links or any of that crap. I think it's because it has a powerful aesthetic framing everything. One that sticks in people's minds and is very memorable. And what's most important is it doesn't look like Final Fantasy.
Yes.
Because Final Fantasy also has one.
Which everybody hates.
They've kind of dropped a turd on it a little bit as far as a couple of the entries in the series go. Like Final Fantasy 12 does not look anything like a Final Fantasy game, and Final Fantasy 15 sort of
is bad.
Sort of there and sort of the not sometimes. But you can see that there's a spiritual successor to that aesthetic at the least, even if it's sort of taken in a bit of a wonky direction. But generally speaking, you can see the line of inheritance through most of their art. They've got a couple of major artists that do all of the designs. Like there's an arc in Manly Guys doing manly things about Nomura-ism, Nomura-itis, or whatever the disease is.
Everyone just randomly turns into a Bishonen.
Yeah, makes you look like a Nomura character. But yeah, there's that unifying aesthetic is very important to what will sell the game. You can fall very slightly short of managing it. Like an example of something similar to Destiny not quite managing to secure the aesthetic is WildStar. We'll talk about WildStar a little bit later, but WildStar is one of those properties where it had an aesthetic, but it just didn't quite clinch it all the way as uniquely itself. It was very derivative and drew from other things, and it wasn't a bad art style. It just didn't quite all match together. It didn't quite all fit into one cohesive whole. Which was like, this is definitely a game that if you glance at a screenshot, you can see that it's WildStar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
you look at anything in Persona 5, you know that it's Persona 5. You look at anything in a Final Fantasy game, you can identify a Final Fantasy game pretty quickly. There are only a couple of its imitators ever got close enough to pass off as a Final Fantasy. But
Yes.
I know Destiny doesn't quite reach this big a word when describing this tangential topic. I hope I don't cut out during this. This would be bad. 'Cause I'm gonna play word choice. But the bigger part is aesthetic gives the game identity. You have to be able to identify that game as that game. You have to be able to introduce new concepts in a new world if you're starting a new IP. And Destiny has completely failed to do that with its aesthetic not showing off anything cool that is uniquely Destiny to the casual viewer. And the way it presents everything else as well. It doesn't feel like anything.
I think that's
Feels
to do
generic.
with a lack of aggression in their creativity. I feel like they seem to be trying to reach in the sort of the Warframe direction, but not willing to let go of the halo that they're holding onto.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that they really want to go in that sort of wild sci-fi futuristic direction, sort of combining the best parts of this is clearly built by humans who were using the tools that they had, that you get in things like some of the weirder and wonderful Borderlands weapons, and then combining that with the sort of the hyper futuristic look that some of the Warframe stuff has. Like they clearly want that, but they aren't letting go of that sort of workhorse simplicity that everything in Halo exhibited. And so you end up with just sort of like a grey paste of design that doesn't really... They haven't committed all the way to one particular art style. And they probably view that as a strength in some respects. But I think that in the end it's a weakness because they don't have a unifying aesthetic that makes the game really stand out as you... it looks too much like generic sci-fi TM.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh well, this is definitely Destiny.
Yeah.
Even their aliens, they look super generic. Like they could have been pulled straight out of Halo and given a couple of extra spikes
Pretty
and
much.
a Vogon mouth, and you're done.
Superfluous crab arms.
Those Vogon guys whose species name I can't remember because it was super generic.
The Hurge.
They don't seem any different than those brute things in Halo.
Nah.
They look the same. They act the same. Like, why is this important? And then you've got, your little spindly guys who are agile and jump from side to side, like those Raptor dudes in Halo. Like, all of these are just Halo enemies with a coat of paint so far. They just don't have the little midget grunt ones.
Yeah.
This seems to happen a lot with people nowadays releasing new IPs. Destiny, I'm still treating as a relatively new IP. But it's just, we're in sequel land, and people have forgotten how to establish an identity for a new franchise and make it its own thing. Especially if they have older projects they can lean back on to draw inspiration from.
Yeah, I think that this is born in some measure from resentment. Like, I get the impression that there are creatives at Bungie who were very unhappy with what happened to Halo. That is to say, it is a complete disaster now, and nobody's interested in it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that they wanted to prove that they could do Halo better rather than they could make Destiny in some respects. And I can see that they're sort of they're gradually drifting away from that mentality, because I watched a friend of mine play a good amount of Destiny. I didn't play very much, but I watched a friend play it, and it suffered from this disease of lacking an identity much more than Destiny 2 does. Destiny 2 is clearly like they're making, like, by degrees progressing away from their roots, but whether they're progressing to something of their own or another thing of somebody else's remains to be seen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get off that topic then, shall we? What else for your week, sir?
My week. Right, so the Prisma Codes event ended I managed to get 100 out of 100 quests done. I didn't even attempt the final fight, the special fight,
No.
because number one, I didn't need the materials. Number two, it was insanely difficult, and number three, I finished the 100 quests with literally hours to spare. So, so I was like, you know what? I think I've had enough. I'm gonna take a break.
We're done.
But yeah, I got there in the end. I brought down the 4 magical gentlemen.
Ugh.
But,
Why is that still a thing?
Yeah, the final boss, Testament, had an absolute ocean of hit points. It took me a long time to whittle her down, but thankfully she actually had a weakness that I could exploit. Unlike the worst one, the biggest blockage for me that really started to make things difficult was Dermid, because I don't have any female sabers, and being a female character was pretty much necessary to be the DPS in this event.
I figured Dermid would be a real pain in the neck because he's got all these anti-female abilities.
Yeah, that's also an issue. But I think that they didn't give him the charm, or at least he doesn't use it very much. The AI does not use it very much.
Oh, good.
Because the thing with the AI and FGO is that it is very strange at times.
Yes.
The only thing that seems to be consistent is that it will bully any berserkers that it sees on the battlefield relentlessly.
Yep.
But
or if someone gets gets their Noble Phantasm charged, that character is really in for a hard time the next turn.
That I can understand. It's just that rendering an entire class almost useless in certain contexts because it will get bullied by the AI so much seems like a worse design choice.
Yeah. Look, a squishy berserker, kill it.
But yeah, the Dermid was a rough fight because I didn't have any way of exploiting his weakness, so I had to do everything the hard way. MVPs, like not counting support Waver, who's like MVP for eternity in every event ever.
Yeah.
Because Waver's OP. And I don't have one, so it's always going to get the support slot. Apart from Waver, MVP was probably Ruler Martha.
Mm-hmm.
Because she could slot into every team, basically. That was the thing. When I needed somebody to just hold down the fort, she would be there. And could be relied upon not to need to have her hand held the entire time because she takes so little damage. She's incredibly bulky, high hit point count. And, well, not really a high hit point count. She's a moderate hit point count. But the fact that she takes half damage from everything that's not a Berserker or an Avenger is a humongous advantage because you can just leave her alone. Any attack that goes in her direction, you can basically count as an attack that didn't go off.
Oh joy!
She even survived Noble Phantasms once or twice. So yeah, second place MVP goes once more to Kirihime because holy cow! Anytime anything was an archer, she would absolutely take it apart in record time. Like I haven't had a strong all power to the front guns offensive lancer up until I got Summer Kirihime, and she's an unbelievable to watch it at work. Basically, to have a powerful character for once and really see it strut its stuff is pretty incredible. And this is the first one I've got that hasn't been a welfare. So like in terms of effectiveness, like she's not Kentoki tier because she can't, go from Noble Phantasm to Noble Phantasm just because you got lucky.
Yeah.
But still very, very powerful, and there were a number of magical gentlemen getting burned in the bell. And it was satisfying, I have to say. At any rate, so that event's over. Neurofest is coming up. I'm in no way prepared for Neurofest because Neurofest has got legendarily difficult fights, and even the farming fights in the first phase are incredibly hard to do. I have not even determined how I'm going to get through them since like the first, like there's 3 rounds basically. It's a 13-day event, I think.
Yes, I think it was.
Now, Neurofest is not a rerun of old Neurofest per se. But there is a new Neurofest every year.
Oh dear.
Because it's basically the FGO Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have a a set of rounds. So the first round will take 4 days, and we'll have a it'll have the AP10, AP20, AP30, AP40 fights, and then like the holy crap, this is hard version. But at any rate, so it's a set of fights will be available for 4 days, and then that will rotate to a new set of 4 fights, and then to a new set of 4 fights. And in parallel with that, there are the exhibition matches, which is what all the elite players are waiting for. They only reward like a summon ticket each, but keep in mind that FGO is one of the harshest, greediest gacha games out there.
Yes.
The AP cost to attempt these fights is 1. Because that's how hard they are.
Oh my. They just...
So, yeah.
Wow.
The first one is... it's just Heracles with about 240,000 hit points.
Mm-hmm.
But he has guts for 50% health 11 times.
Oh my. He's going to take some killing.
And I think he also debuffs arts really heavily for 999 turns.
Right, so no Noble Phantasm for you then.
Well, the idea is that the ones that you want to build Noble Phantasm for, you keep them off the field and switch them in. But
that plug suit, yo.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are going to be plug suiting Uriali in pretty quickly because it only goes off on the first turn, I think. But yeah, so it's a rough fight, and it's the first one, and there are 7 of them released across 7 days. I can't remember what most of the others are. Yeah. There are a number of them. But there's some of them are really, really absolutely bonkers insane. There's one for Gilgamesh, I think, that basically if he decides to use his Noble Phantasm, it's over. Period. End.
It kind of, I suppose, underlines just how bad of a master the protagonist actually is. Because these expedition matches, from what it sounds like, is these servants fighting at their full strength, rather than the gimped Grand Order versions.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't you can't really. There would be issues, let's say, with game design if all the servants were acting at full power all the time.
Yeah,
balance would go out the window relatively quickly.
Completely.
But yeah, so there's a lot of different things. A lot of very complex ones. I've heard some people say that the only one that is just balls to the wall hard is technically Heracles, and that the other ones there's usually a gimmick way to work your way through the fight once you figure out how. But I don't know if that's true or not because I didn't play it in Japan. But so. Yeah, the big attraction for this event though is that the hardest of the normal matches each time is a lottery, gets lottery currency, and lotteries in FGO are like, this is your opportunity to make back all of that QP that you desperately need now that you've upgraded a couple of your servants to max skills or something like that. And it's also an opportunity that you can basically acquire as many XP all cards, 4-star XP all cards as you are willing to farm for. You can just hoard them, along with a pile of other materials that you can get. Which one's the materials this time from the lottery? Repeatable lottery items include bronze apples, medals, chains, gears, lanterns, and the monuments and figures and that stuff, as well as friend points and XP cards. So,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, plenty of stuff to get.
If you've got the right, whatchamacallits, craft essences, then you should be able to to get a good number of those. And I think that I think that there are 4 craft essences for lottery currency that can be bought using the other currencies, the gold, bronze, silver, and gold medals in the shop. So everybody has access to some, boosting your lottery gathering.
Okay, good.
Also, that particular craft essence is legendarily good. Like outside of the event, so you definitely want to get those. There's no welfare champion this time. There's no welfare servant, I should say, this time. But there is 4 copies of what's it called now? Can't remember what it's called. But it's either 4 or 5 star craft essence is really, really, really good. But you have to hope that you get a 5th one as a drop, because there are only 4 you can buy.
Oh dear.
But technically speaking, it has a chance to drop from any fight in the event.
Oh, okay.
Nobody knows the rate. Nobody knows the rates, whether it's better, higher or lower, with harder or easier ones or whatever. But it is technically, there's a drop chance in every single fight that you'll get a copy of that craft essence, and it's very, very powerful. But I can't remember exactly what it does. I think it's like plus 20% buster and plus 20% crit damage or something like that.
Ooh.
So it's very powerful. But yeah, the fights are quite difficult, though. The most difficult ones seem to be front loaded. The worst one, I suppose, based on eyeballing this, everything else looks pretty doable. Some of them look quite hard, but doable. But the first 4 days, the lottery farming one, the lineup is like this. The first round is 3 chimeras at 15,000 and 24,000 HP. And the second stage is Jean Alter, and Guy Caster.
Why?
And the third phase is Amakusa and Dante's. So, like, that's basically insanity. It's insanity tier. I have no idea how I'm going to chip my way through there. Like, I reckon I could probably devise a plan that could get me through it, but I'll be, like, panting and bleeding by the end.
Yeah, the game
Like,
just wants to spank you by the sound of it. Horribly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I've made a critical error in preparing for this, and there's no way of fixing it now, which is that basically the only way to get through that fight is to have a leveled up Arash and a craft essence that will let you Noble Phantasm in the first turn.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
Arash is stupid good. As long as there's no
Yeah.
servants in a wave, he can just say, "No, this wave is done. I'm done."
Yeah, I think he is done after that. But
Yeah, after that you can just push him in a hole and he's finished. But
my Arash is level 8, so I don't think I'm going to be using him for this. So yeah, I'm a bit sort of kicking myself about that now. But I've got so many archers. My goodness. I've dumped more XP into archers than anything else, probably.
I have no archers. My best archer is Robin Hood, and he just tends to fall over if you look at him funny.
Yeah, Summer Ultra has been eating most of my EXP lately. But yeah, so that's the first lottery farming one. The other ones are mainly they're doable because you can look at the classes of the enemies and sort of build a team that can cope with them. But a team composed almost entirely of rulers and Avengers, like
Yeah.
there's no easy way through that. There's no easy way through that. Like alter egos, we don't have alter egos yet, so we're sort of screwed.
Yeah.
But the later ones are still tough, but they're less like hard counters everything style of tough. Like the second phase is 3 Helter Skelters, Saber type. Second stage Spriggan plus 1 Helter Skelter. Third stage Kana and Arjuna.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
So you would just get a good Lancer.
Actually, how
Destroy
death happy
Arjuna.
is that Arjuna going to be?
I would say that with Arjuna, you're probably going to want to, burn him in the bell before he does anything.
Yeah, if he gets his noble phantasm off, then you're kind of boned, I think.
Yeah, Pashpata is not friendly.
Nope.
And he actually has a real big moment in the storyline as well.
What is
using
it with
Pashpata?
What is it with Indian servants and just blowing everything up?
Their mythic cycles tend to be extraordinarily pyrotechnic.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, and the third one is roughly the same difficulty, I think. 3 centaurs, stage 2 is a sphinx, and the final stage is Nitocris, Ozymandias, and Gilgamesh, which is rough.
Yeah,
like, super rough.
It's like Smug Bastards Unite.
Like, I really wish that I had been lucky enough to roll Raiko, because this is like the ideal time to bust her out. No pun intended. But yeah, no. I'll just have to devise a cunning scheme that will get me through it.
A cunning plan.
I don't know what that will look like, but I have to try and do Liz's strengthening quests or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's gonna be some rough fights, but I want to develop a farming strategy as soon as possible so I can make the most of the lottery, because I need medals badly. They're necessary for summer Artoria, and I really, really, really get her level, because she's god tier powerful when used correctly.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's that. Staying in a similar vein, I also finished Fate Last Encore.
Ah.
The last 3 episodes are out, and I watched them, and it was pretty cool. It didn't make a lot of sense. So more or less the same as the rest of the series.
It is based around Nero, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Fate Extra, another chapter basically.
Yeah.
It takes place in a setting where Hakuno Kishinami didn't win. Got all the way up to twice Peaceman and then got wrecked by Savior at the end.
Right.
And then, 1,000 years passed and the world basically fell into disrepair. Nobody is alive on Earth anymore. There's only the moon cell basically spiraling towards self-obliteration.
Again.
And then the new protagonist appears spontaneously for reasons that are variously explained and not explained during the story. And proceeds to conquer what is left of the moon cell to try and, find out who he is and set things right to whatever extent they can be set right. But yeah, so you get to see all of the usual Fate Extra suspects. So
yeah, Fate Extra was always kind of funny to me. Like, the protagonist seems to be largely dead weight. It's like, okay, get in the ring.
Yeah, that's basically the running theme in Fate Extra, is that you are like sub-Shiro levels of competent.
Yeah,
you don't know anything about code casting, which is the in-universe equivalent of Magecraft for that timeline. And yeah, you basically you're useless, and you learn on the job basically while getting wrecked by everybody left, right, and center. And eventually, you end up getting babysat by Rin or Rani to survive for a good chunk of the story. But,
yeah.
In this particular iteration, Rin has had like 1,000 years to learn how to install servant traits in her own body, so she's actually able to help with the scrapping on a servant level of combat. So there are a few little aberrations like that, because everybody has had 1,000 years. Most characters have spent that 1,000 years going completely out of their mind or going into hibernation. So,
right.
Yeah, but yeah, some of the arcs in there are pretty wacky, and not necessarily in an amusing sense either. Like, Nursery Rhymes 1 is nightmare fuel from start to finish.
I read up on Nursery Rhymes' backstory, and wow, that gets dark.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark indeed. I'm glad that they skipped certain ones because some of them are like viscerally horrifying in Fate Extra,
Yeah.
like Ronnie. Like I'm glad that nothing remotely associated with Ronnie was animated because, quite frankly, that's incredibly disturbing. But yeah. So I don't know if I can say it was good. Like the thing is that I'm just super biased. Like Fate Apocrypha wasn't good by an objective standard of good, but I loved it, and likewise I liked Fate Extra Last Encore, but by objective measures, it just wasn't that good. Like mainly blithering insanity, but the objective was not really to be good. It was so that you could get to see all of your favorite servants from Fate Extra have a big scrap, unless your favorite servant was Vlad, in which case you were left out in the cold.
Yeah.
Which is good because Ronnie was horrifying.
Yes. Oh dear. Alright, we should move on.
Okay. I've continued watching several of these anime series this season. The season is still underwhelming. Planet With has become an interesting story.
Okay.
It's a little bit. It's not really as rich and deep as I might like for the material that they're handling, but given the sort of janky metaphysics that most anime have, it's doing the best that it can. There's actually some meat to it. It's well-tread meat, but it's
that sounds gross.
Yeah, it's not. There's nothing much that's terribly original there, except for the bizarre designs of some of the alien devices. But yeah, it's one of the. It is the only one that has like seriously rallied and become better as the season has gone along. And while it hasn't become great, it has become good and quite watchable.
Rather than just being quite happy to sit and stagnate like a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, there's some pretty decent substance there to the characters. I mean, naturally, it's told brute force through flashbacks each time they get into the spotlight, but it's still, it's got material there that's not completely crap. Which is more than I can say for a lot of the stuff that's coming out this season.
Yeah, this coming season is pretty rotten looking.
I don't know. I think we're just going through a rough patch here. Somebody's going to come up with a new idea to start the ball rolling again. Like, while Sword Art Online was not great by any stretch of the imagination, it did kick off a craze, and what's more important, it kicked off sort of a boom in creativity for people trying to compete with it, as well as people trying to copy it. So we ended up with a few seasons in a row of people trying new things for a bit.
Yep.
But now we're sort of stagnated again. Everybody's had their go at copying the isekai formula, and now we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel with it.
Yeah.
So I guess we're waiting for the next big thing to come along. Like isekai has hit the end of its arc, the same way that so many other things did before it. Like we had the magical girl. The magical girl deconstructions hit the end of their arc, and we had the harem shows hit the end of their arc in the early 2000s, and we had the moe boom hit the end of its arc, and nobody makes strictly moe anime anymore. That just doesn't really happen. Most of this stuff has sort of like petered out, and the same is true of all of the extant trends that have been really popular over the past few seasons. So I guess we're waiting for the next smash hit to really kick things off. I just hope that it's something good this time and not Sword Art Online.
Yeah. Like, isekai itself isn't inherently bad, but a lot of the shows in that genre are just awful.
Well, the thing is that it's a genre that allows you to be very lazy.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, it encourages lazy writing. It does not have to use lazy writing. It does not have to be banal and samey as everything else. There's interesting ground you can explore there, but you could also get away with doing something very lazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's just the way that market is right now. Like, it's sort of like the video games industry tends to select for the same sort of thing done over and over again, even when it's a bad idea, like it did with MMOs, like it did with MOBAs, that sort of thing.
The latest being Battle Royale.
Because the publishers are super risk averse, and the same thing is true in light novels. and that has a knock-on effect to anime.
Mm-hmm.
Like the light novels that get selected for publication these days are mostly ones that are very, very, very samey, and Isekai produces a lot of very similar stuff.
Yeah.
Because people do buy it. It's like buying pulp fiction, right? Although the pulp era in Western fiction was actually a pretty successful one as far as exploration of new ideas went, because most of the pulp writers wrote for the love of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like silly pulp fiction, the risk aversion of publishers these days has caused everything to basically congeal into one samey mass of the same story told over and over again, with a harem composed of a slightly different combination of standard archetypes.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that somebody will eventually stick a monkey wrench in the system of that particular repeating clockwork, and eventually we'll see it all break and something else will come out of it, because that seems to be the way over the past 20 years or so that the industry has iterated. Like it will ride in a groove, and then that groove will break because it's been pushed beyond its limits, and then it will settle into a new groove.
Yeah.
But I think that it happens on a slightly faster time scale than it does for video games by about 30% or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I think, as far as other stuff that I've been watching lately, that Black Clover is really starting to find its groove, which is to be shonen trash. Like,
yeah.
The fact is that their big fights are still really exciting in a shonen-y sort of way, and way more stuff happens in them than happens in a lot of other ones. Like it's more fast-paced on average than Naruto is, for instance. Like there's the fight still continues at a glacial pace, but the only thing that really breaks the formula is the fact that it's so formulaic. Like the characters do and say the exact things that shonen characters are supposed to in that particular circumstance. But it's by the numbers, but it's by the numbers for a very successful formula, which, unlike most of the typical trends, has endured for decades. And Black Clover's not bad at it. I think that it's probably, in terms of structurally speaking stuff, I think it's probably edges out ahead of Fairy Tail in various places, and considering Fairy Tail is the worst of them, that means that Black Clover is no longer the worst. So, yeah, that's something, I guess. But yeah, they haven't gotten to the part where the inevitable there's a demon living in the main character thing happens. But I expect that it'll probably be along in a few episodes now.
If it's shonen,
it's comparing it with some of the ones.
It'll happen.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. It happens in every shonen.
Yep.
Almost. But yeah, we'll soon see what the shape of that is. What else did I play? Anything else? I don't really have that much time to play anything else. But I don't think I really did. Nothing else I watched was really worthy of comment. Most of it's pretty garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep watching it just to see it come to an end, basically.
All right. We should take a break then.
Yep. We're at an hour and a half. So let's go to a break, and we'll be right back. And we're back, and we sort of cut off Falls Week because we got scared the recording would break. Or I got scared the recording would break. So, you have anything else in your week?
Nah, not really.
Alright. How are your week, sir?
Alright, we're going to hope the internet reset I did in the first segment of the show sticks, and my internet stays okay. So, that tree project continued, although you'll notice I'm not as tired because it ended several days ago.
Oh, good.
But it lasted until Wednesday evening. And I do have pictures. I'll put them in the live show chat while I'm talking so you guys have a better idea of this stupid tree.
Okay.
So the big problem here was we just didn't have the ability to move it with just me and my dad there. It just wasn't possible with our knowledge and equipment. So I needed to call somebody. We needed a third pair of hands at least. And so what happened was one day he went to sleep and I called my friends over and we got it up. And the tree was up and it was good. And I'm like, okay, rocking. And then it fell over. And then I called him again. And then I called him again. And this time took what we call the cheater bar, which is just a big 6 foot tall, 3 inches in diameter piece of steel that it weighs a ton, and just smashed it into the ground point first to pack the dirt as tight as possible. It didn't fall over that time.
Okay, good.
That took a while, but it didn't fall over now. And now it's sitting up, tied down. So yeah, I am posting the tree. It is not a very big tree as far as big around, but it's a very tall tree. I posted a picture with my hand touching it for reference. Although I do have fairly large, long, skinny hands. So
let's take a look at this tree. That is a tree.
Yeah, that is the tree after we got it up the second time. Before we put the permanent ropes on. I know those ropes are a little jank. They're just meant to hold it while we're repositioning the tree and packing it in the dirt. But yeah, this thing ate up anything that could resemble free time and work time that I really needed to get work done. So I didn't have a whole lot of free time this week, but for the past 3 weeks, I've been working on 100%ing an old game that I could not 100% as a kid because it was split into 2 versions, and you needed stuff from the second version that I didn't own.
Let's just call a spade here. It was designed stupidly.
Yes. So the story of how this game got split into 2 versions is really weird. In Japan, the game I'm talking about is Mega Man Battle Network 3 Blue version. And in Japan, they released Battle Network 3 as, one game like the first 2. And it was fine, except the game was buggy and was supposed to be the series finale, and it didn't have some of the content they wanted in it. So they did a re-release about 2 months later called Battle Network 3 Black version in Japan. Well, when the localizers got a hold of it, they got it after Black version was already released. And they saw 2 versions, and they're like, oh, okay. So we got the buggy original version as Battle Network 3 White version, and the fixed version with all the content is Battle Network 3 Blue. So, but they decided to lock most of the post-game content that was added in Blue version behind 4 battleships from 1 boss that you can fight only in White version. There's no way to fight him in Blue version. And you have to get those 4 drops from him to 100% your library so you get the access to the post-game. Well, half of the post-game. Because the first half of the post-game you can access just fine after you beat the final boss, as long as you got most of the stuff in the game. But you need absolutely everything to unlock the second half of it, which involves a whole lot of shenanigans like time trials and beating bosses in like less than 40 seconds and stuff without your main folder. You have to do it with a preset thing that's not as good as what you can make on your own.
Hate those types of challenges.
Yeah, it was fairly tough, but I got it. And I was very happy when I did, because I don't like leaving games that I really enjoy stuck in limbo where they're not completed yet. And like, I really want to finish the game, and I could, but there's some stupid thing like version differences that is holding me back. So I just decided to go back and fix that. Hang on, I'll post a link to the 100% picture. But yeah, finally got it. Got 7 out of 7, well, 7 out of 5 completion stars. Most people don't count the last 2 100% things you need because you need to port over the 2 things you can't normally get. But the process of doing this involved staring at how Visual Boy Advance translates the GBA's game's base code into whatever it reads in its scripting format, and just sitting there trying to figure out how to replace values in that script with its cheat engine that it has built in. This is not very difficult, and it's not very complicated at all once you really sit there and stare at the code in real time. But it got to a point where I had so many notepads open copying reference points that I just needed a window I didn't have anything and just threw some code at Fern.
Yeah, I was wondering, because here's these codes, because what is he doing?
Like, I need these on something else, and I don't have time to open another notepad to save them in time before I have to copy something else and paste it somewhere. So I just threw it in the chat window in Discord, and it happened to be open at Fern.
Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear.
So he gets... Those codes actually happened to be the right ones, and that's why I didn't want to lose them, because I suspected they were the right ones that I needed. So what I did was when I stared at every time you beat an enemy and found out where it generates what drops and figured out what I needed to replace to make it the 4 things you can't get in the version normally. So I just went and punched a random enemy with a code set in that replaced all drops on that enemy type with what I needed from the other version of the game. And just did that one at a time for the 4 things she needed. It was a pain in the butt, to put it lightly. But
pointless systems.
But yeah, that's done. And playing that Mega Man run through marathon for the Classic Series and X I did over the past 2 weeks before the last 2 weeks just got me thinking about how I never finished Battle Network Blue, and I really wanted to. So I've been chewing away at that. And the only reason I managed to do it in the time frame I did, in the 2.5 weeks with the tree and work going on, was the wonderful 1000% speed button.
There's a ridiculous kind of acceleration there.
Yeah, you really get a feel for, in these old Game Boy games and these older games in this style, just how much time you spend running in a straight line to another place. Mm-hmm. Just by how often you hold that dang button. So you just keep L2 held, and as well, that's what I have it bound to. And as long as that button's held down, the game runs at 1000% speed.
I'm suddenly remembering the bike path in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yep. Why would you even do that? Why would you do that to a person?
It's just a stupidly long straight line. You get them later on in the games where you use those areas to hatch eggs, because they're just long and straight, and you can just kind of lean something on the stick and look away and watch TV or something.
Yeah, they gave you a spot in the new version, literally right beside the breeder in Sun and Moon, where you can just park a Tauros in there that can't escape the gate and just run around in a 4x4 little grid.
Yeah.
And just do it real fast, because every time you turn, it counts as a step.
Yep.
So you just sit there and jiggle your controller for 10 seconds and your egg's hatched. But yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. It held up surprisingly well. I mean, the story's campy and, coincidence-based, and it's not exactly deep.
Lan's
but it's
still an idiot.
Lan's an idiot. Yeah. It's fine, and the gameplay is pretty fun. I like the Battle Network series a lot. For those that don't know, it's set in an alternate universe to the classic Mega Man series, where instead of building robots, Dr. Light worked on networks and computers. And so he made a digital space that runs parallel to the real world, where everything is connected to it. And so people have little avatars they control that are sentient that they can talk to, and they send them on the internet to do stuff for them, like turn on the lights or something. I don't know. It's not real clear on how involved in life these little sentient operators are.
Incidentally, by that note, why would you connect your stove to the internet?
This is a problem when everything, including the military's tanks, is on the internet and the villains hijack them.
Yeah.
And you have to go beat up their little sentient AI they have that's controlling the tank and stuff like that. And instead of jumping and shooting, it's random encounters, action RPG. As you run through the map, random encounters will happen, and you'll transition to a screen that's a 3x6 grid where you have 9 squares on your side, and the enemy has 9 squares on their side, and you move from square to square to adjust your position, and you get up to 30 special abilities you can assign to be randomly allotted to you in battle every turn that you can use in real time.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised just how creative they get with the abilities they give you with just two 3x3 grids to play with. But it's a lot of fun. I like those games a lot. And near their post games, they can get really challenging too. So actually 100%ing them for realsies is not an insignificant achievement for some of them. Immediately after this, I got curious because I put the series down for goodsies at Battle Network 4 and never finished it because it was so bad. But I could not remember why it was so bad. So I booted it up, and then I remembered why it was so bad.
That's usually the way it goes, yes.
Yes.
Aside from the generic gameplay just being worse, them reintroducing enemies they removed in Battle Network 2 and 3 for good reason, and just dumb things with the world design and how the mission structure is laid out. It is the worst localization I've seen for a handheld game, I think. Not of all time, but up there for handhelds. Like, there is a screw-up tally for this game that runs in the Let's Play Archive forum thread for that game. And when I clicked around near the end of it, they were somewhere at like 600 plus grammar errors and typos, or just bad translations.
Wow. Just wow.
Yeah, it is awful. What a polite young man she is what broke me. So I gave up with that game. I originally was just going to put down the whole series and call it done and say, okay, just make it a one-off thing with Blue version. And just say, okay, I 100% of the game from my childhood. I wanted to 100%, but that didn't happen. I picked it back up, and instead of 100%ing 4, I just blitzed to the end of the story as fast as possible and fought the final boss woefully underprepared for it with next to no upgrades.
But did
and
you
just
win?
Found yeah, by constructing the cheesiest folder possible that basically gave me infinite invincibility frames.
Cheese is fine.
Because Battle Network 4 is broken, and you can do that.
Yes.
Wasn't there a Mega Man cartoon at one point?
There was a tie-in Mega Man Battle Network cartoon as well, and the protagonist in that land was still just as much of an idiot.
An idiot, yeah.
The only only character with any sort of sense in that anime at all seemed to be Mega Man, and maybe Roll.
Yeah, well, no, Roll's an idiot too.
Yeah, she's a ditz.
Maybe in the anime, but in the games, she's a ditz. Yeah. She's also OP as crap in Battle Network 4, because when you become friends with characters in that game, you can take on their abilities, and Roll's ability just completely breaks the game. Like, every time you use a special ability, you get 10% of your health back, and you can spam special abilities, and it counts for every hit that ability does.
That's pretty nuts.
So any multi-hit ability is a full heal. In any context in the game where your health doesn't regenerate between fights, that's a big deal. It breaks the game.
Game balance. What is this of which you speak?
Yeah. But, so I had heard that 5 and 6 were way, way better, and that 4 was a one-off thing. Like, 4 is so bad, the game's literally just 3 tournaments that Lamb participates in, and then it turns out at the end that they were all a test to see if he was strong enough to be the representative of Earth to go fight the big asteroid monster coming.
What?
In an internet battle. Somehow. What? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh dear.
What?
Yeah, no, don't. There's no context that makes it any better. It's stupid. So, Battle Network 5, I booted up just to see if it was better, and it is much, much better. They realized that, oh wait, those enemies were removed for a reason.
When they were rubbish.
Because they were bad. They cut the random encounter rate down back to something reasonable, and you can actually access the entire map this time, instead of every playthrough of the game giving you a random section of the overworld you can explore every time.
Good grief, who thought that was a good idea?
I don't know, but they're horrible people. Yeah, but this one feels like it just copied Mega Man Battle Network 3, which is fine. So I'm playing through it a little bit. And as far as games go, that's really it. I've not had a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
And Ward's at a weird spot, but that's what I've been listening to for my audiobook right now. That and I got a few other things I'm checking out, but I'm not done with them yet. So I'll save them for another week, I guess.
Okie doke. We should jump into some news then.
Yep.
Such as it is. Let's see. What we have? There's a lot of depressing stuff this week. Alright, well, let's tangent off something said earlier. WildStar.
Yes. Wildstar.
It's going.
Old buddy Wildstar.
It's
Been
pushing up
consigned to
daisies.
the grave.
Yeah. I'm sad to see it go. Like, I really liked the game, even though it did make a lot of mistakes.
And constantly called you Cupcake.
Yeah. But to date, it still has one of the best player housing systems ever devised in an MMO.
I've never seen one that's better.
Yeah.
They gave me a beer sign, like, from my second reward for it.
Yep.
It wins points for that.
They know
It
their
probably
target audience.
It probably shouldn't win points for that, but it does.
Hero, thought you might like beer.
Big neon sign that says beer. Just the only thing I really remember about that game.
Yeah, no specific brand, it's just generic beer. But, yeah. So it had fun gameplay. They've never really changed it too much after launch, though, unfortunately. But in terms of class mechanics, oh dear.
I'm sad about it. Like, I think the thing is that there was good stuff in there, and there were good things that could have been done with it, but it wasn't the right team, really. Like, they made the wrong play. They didn't understand the player base, and I can't really blame them for that, because the player base didn't really understand themselves either. Like, they ran up against one of the few you think you do but you don't sort of things that are not entirely without merit. But it's not really that the players thought they did, but they didn't. But they weren't able to articulate what it was that they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought that what they wanted was insanely obtuse attunements and 40-man raids, but what they really wanted wasn't that so much as they didn't want that to be taken away from them, I think was the main thing. Like, everybody still was thinking about Wrath of the Lich King and what it did.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And I don't think it's that people actually wanted 40-man raids, and that's in the same sense. I think that it's that people didn't want a vector towards making things easier in order to encourage participation. Like, it's the same sentiment that drives the desire for Vanilla WoW.
Yeah.
It always was, and it continues to be the same sentiment that drives people to desire Vanilla WoW. And what they want is not necessarily Vanilla WoW, but the sort of environment that Vanilla WoW created. And you can't actually do that by forcing it.
No.
Like, that world generated itself in an organic fashion. I don't mean the world as in World of Warcraft. I mean the world as in the game and its people, the people that played it. That occurred naturally. And Wildstar thought that, in the over-rationalistic way of moderns, thought that if you simply introduced the same variables, you could create the same result, which is not what happened.
No.
At all.
Not at all. So, yeah.
But, so they threw a lot of money at that, and it was a bad place to throw your money. Like, they should have reversed Vector and focused on their housing thing and sold themselves on that while they worked out what their identity was going to be after that first initial, running aground. Because apparently their raid content and their dungeons were really awesome. Like, they were really, really, really good. It's just that their focus was so much on not letting people play because they thought that's what they had to do, that nobody saw it. So nobody could get excited about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Definitely sad to see it go. Had some good times.
Yeah. I wish that they had found a way to put it into maintenance mode like Guild Wars did. But
yeah, but this is NC Soft, and they've got a kind of a track record of doing dumb decisions. Pardon, sorry?
Guild Wars is NC Soft.
Yeah, it is too.
And they were allowed to get things set up in maintenance mode because that's what Guild Wars knew it wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
When they went ahead with their new project, they decided they wanted to start building Guild Wars 2. They wanted to build a future for Guild Wars as well. So they started. When they knew that they were going to end up leaving, rather than just dropping it like a hot rock, they prepared the groundwork for that game to be put in maintenance mode.
Mm.
So that's why Guild Wars 1 still exists.
Yep.
And why people still play it. Because rather than just annihilating everything that was, they basically created a static place where it can continue to exist in the way it was as people loved it,
Yeah.
rather than, you know, what you see with a lot of other things like cough cough Secret World cough.
Cough, cough.
Like you can
City of
you can
Heroes.
still play the old Secret World
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, but apparently it's just kind of broken now
Yeah.
because
They stripped a lot of
much
stuff
has
out.
been. Yeah, it's sort of falling apart now. Not many people play it. The only reason people play the old Secret World is to do PvP. The rest of the game doesn't really work, and there's nobody debugging it. So
Yeah.
Guild Wars was already very polished when they let it go into maintenance. But I really don't understand why they didn't put City of Heroes in maintenance, and I think that's a lot of what people were really mad about when it went down.
Well, it was,
Because
by all reports, still making money at the time and doing very well.
yeah,
And then it's
And
out of the
that's-
blue. It's, no, we're killing it.
and that's where NCSoft have their reputation for murdering games for no reason.
Yeah. It's
But-
what they did to City of Heroes.
The thing is that they should really have a reputation rather than that for inconsistency, because City of Heroes was ready for maintenance. Like
Yeah.
everything was as stable as it was going to get. There wasn't really any development going on in it.
They told the story.
Yeah, the story was over. Like you could just stick that in maintenance and people could play it to their heart's content. There wasn't such a huge amount of players that they would constantly need more maintenance, but there was a solid number of people, and a solid number of people, moreover, that were willing to spend money in their shop.
Mm-hmm.
So it remains one of the most mystifying decisions in MMO governance to date, is the destruction of City of Heroes.
Yeah.
And it's sort of rather telling that it had such a long lifespan, but there is not a single superhero MMO which has ever come close since.
No. Like, you've
Like,
got
they
other
all tail
MMOs
off
out
real
there.
quick.
Yeah. You've got other MMOs out there which have parts of it. Like, Champions Online has the costume builder, but it doesn't have the content. Even
Also,
though-
nobody plays it.
No, there's a handful in there, and it is a guilty pleasure I'll fire up every now and again, but
Yeah, but the thing is, it's still hardly any people play it relative to how many people played City of Heroes when it closed down.
oh yeah, no contest. DC Universe has the franchise, and that's about it.
Nobody plays that either.
No, nobody really plays that either. You got a
And
couple of
these
projects in the works, but they're a long way off finished.
things, the reason why it seems so strange is because City of Heroes was so successful. It wasn't unsuccessful. That's the weird thing.
Mm.
I don't think anybody will ever know. I don't think we will ever get to find out what the real reason was. And it may have simply been a stupid person doing a stupid thing because they didn't understand.
Yeah, could have been.
That's just sometimes the way it is.
Mhm.
And there's no way we'll ever know. But I'd seriously doubt it was for a financial reason, because they make other decisions that are so much less financially sound.
I want to play City of Heroes now. Damn it.
Well, you can't.
But I can't.
Apparently, you can still download hacked versions of the character creator just to create heroes.
You can.
But you
I know I have done
And
in the
you can-
past.
you can even wander around a sad, empty version of Atlas Park.
There's also programs where people have kind of shoehorned a chat program into it, so you can walk around and talk to other people in the game engine. You just can't see anyone.
You can mourn together.
You can mourn.
Oh dear.
Have we got some happier news? Let's see. Happier news.
No.
No.
I don't think we get happy news.
How about
No,
while we're
this
on the
is
topic
not.
of MMOs, there's a new Lord of the Rings MMO Walker announced. They're calling it a new multi-year online game. Who wants more Lord of the Rings? I don't. After what they did to
Thing with
Bruce the
Lord
Orc, I'm
The thing
disappointed
with Lord
you.
of the Rings, it's sort of sometimes they license the book and sometimes they license the movie. They're not the same IP.
Nope.
So yeah, it's sort of
Yeah,
not
let's
really sure.
let's have a quick squiz here and see what they're actually announcing. So, AAA MMO. That's immediately a red flag right there.
Yeah, anytime you start out with AAA MMO, you're doomed. You're doomed before you start. There's something seriously
Which
hazardous about attaching the AAA badge to an MMO.
it means you're throwing an awful lot of money at what is essentially a gigantic gamble. It doesn't really... Oh, hang on. I think it might actually be the movie franchise. Which means no Tom Bombadil. That's good.
Yeah, we don't need any more of that guy.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
He's like Tolkien's I Am the Walrus.
What?
Well, the Beatles, they wrote I Am the Walrus just to screw with everyone. I'm pretty sure that's what Tolkien was doing with Bombadil.
I've
never
seen
thought of it like that.
that character is a pain in the butt whenever you try to discuss Lord of the Rings with people.
Yeah.
Because when he comes up, the answer is nobody knows to anything about him.
His gigantic shrug.
Well, yeah, I had a chat with Fern about that a while back.
We tried to figure it out.
Yeah, I went and looked to see all the information I could find about him, and as it turns out, Tolkien said that he deliberately put him in there because the world needed at least one enigma.
Yeah, so he did put it in there just to screw with people.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
There is no explanation.
Yeah.
Per se.
So
he's just a thing.
So yeah, we're getting a new MMO in Lord of the Rings, and do we really need another not even just ultra generic, it is the generic fantasy setting.
Oh, it's played out by this point too. Lord of the Rings had its heyday in revival. Like,
yeah,
is it still popular enough to warrant a full MMO that's going to keep players? Or does it have fans nowadays that are that hardcore into the series? Like, it used to, like 10 years ago, but that was 10 years ago.
Well, Lord of the Rings Online is still running, isn't it?
I think so.
Is it?
Might have to go and take a look.
It seems like it already exists, you know? Like, yeah. There's not really... I just think you're not really adding anything, are you?
No.
The game already exists.
Let's see.
You can play it if you want.
Lord of the Rings Online is still online. So if you want to, it's looking really, really dated, but yeah, it's online. It's still there.
It's ancient.
Released 2007.
But yeah, so it seems like it's a strange move to try and put the whole reason. Well, a good amount of the reason, as far as I can tell, that Star Wars Galaxies shut down was to make room for SWTOR.
Yeah,
people are still mad about that. The same sort of people that are mad about City of Heroes shutting down, because, frankly, Galaxies had better prospects for the long term based on the models that people knew about at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The advent of micropayments and in-game stores have sort of changed the calculus on that. But yeah, so it seems like the normal practice is not to try and do two MMOs from an IP at the same time, but
yeah,
apparently nobody told these guys that.
Does this mean Lord of the Rings Online itself is going to be phased out?
It could do, but as I said, it depends on whether you're licensing the movie or the book. And Lord of the Rings Online licensed the book.
Yep.
It also depends on the player base. Are they attached and invested in their characters enough? Is Lord of the Rings Online good enough to hold people? Or are they looking for a new game?
Like, the people that are there are like committed long-term players. Because remember, Lord of the Rings Online is old.
Yeah.
Really old. The people that are playing that have been playing for the same sort of time that people have been playing WoW since launch have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And unlike World of Warcraft, it hasn't completely ransacked its entire mechanism of existence every 5 minutes. So, yeah, the people that are in there still are very invested.
I seem to have found a bug in this game. Oh joy.
Well, at any rate, I still think that it has not changed that there is a lot of competition in the high fantasy MMO space. Like, people have been saying lately that what's it called? Elder Scrolls Online has really rallied. Like, most of their early problems have pretty much been dealt with now, and it's a fully functional MMO in the Elder Scrolls world.
I will probably check that out next time it comes up on sale.
I'm not sure that it ever comes up on sale, but I'm interested in checking it out. I don't like Elder Scrolls as a setting. Like, I don't have any attachment to it whatsoever. I think that it's derivative and generally kind of dull relative to other settings.
Oh yeah.
However, I do like playing MMOs in general terms.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish I had the time to do so. But yeah, so I'm interested in checking it out to see how it, how does it hold up structurally speaking as MMO? How do they engage people? What sort of cool enormous bosses are there? Which is really what drives me.
What cool things can you kill?
Yeah. That's really what it is, though, right? That's the whole point. The reason why Dungeons and Dragons was invented is so that people could hunt dragons in dungeons.
Yes.
Like, that's the point. But, yeah. So I'm interested in trying it out. But it's, from what I hear, it's quite successful at what it does. Like, it's successful in the sense that it does what it sets out to do, and it's successful in the sense that there are lots of people that play it, and it is a player base that is stable, if not growing very, very slightly. And you've got in that space, though, also other things. You've got WoW, which is still a juggernaut to this very day. It's relatively stable in terms of numbers of players. As far as anybody can eke out from their evasive way of summarizing their engagement, it seems to be relatively stable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's going to die anytime soon. Like, people are still clamoring for more WoW content, and they seem to be able to bring themselves to accept any old bullcrap that Blizzard are willing to deliver them. And I think that their repeating player base is actually roughly, I would say, probably about 20 million people.
All right.
Of which 10 million play at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And as one lot get more and more offended, the other lot will be encouraged to come back, and vice versa. So I think that's sort of what's going on there. So they've got a lot of people who want to play that game. They just don't all play it at the same time. But because they have desires that run counter to each other, it doesn't really matter what changes Blizzard makes. They're going to end up oscillating towards one side of that spectrum or another.
Mm-hmm.
So they can basically do whatever they please and not lose their player base because they're just switching from one particular model to another and back again. That seems to be more or less what's been going on. But there's also other minor ones like Terra and that, and there's probably like still people playing RuneScape.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ari, does your mother still play RuneScape?
No, I don't think so.
My great aunt would, but she's dead. Top player in the world, and it was a 98-year-old woman. Enjoy that.
Yeah, my mother was pretty dang up there.
Yeah, it seems to mainly be old women that get really good at RuneScape. I don't know why this is the case.
Yeah.
Well, if you're like a 40-year-old housewife and your kids are grown up and pretty much independent, if not moved out, I mean, you got free time to do stuff, I guess. And RuneScape is all grind.
Yeah, I could think of a worse way to spend my retirement than MMOs. But yeah, RuneScape, it's ruled by old ladies.
There is no reaction time required. They don't need to be young to perform well in that game.
Oh dear. How about Eve? Let's segue.
Right.
Eve.
So, Eve Online. Mining simulator extraordinaire.
Yep.
Home of the grandest scale MMO drama of any MMO in history.
Oh, isn't it just?
And not by a small margin either.
Nope. There is real world money on the line here.
They are Drama Llama Central. And
hey, they sold their
manages to make the most of it too. Like, if it was not a Drama Llama game, then it would not be anywhere near as popular. But the fact is that the Drama Llama-ness comes from organically developing game content and returns as organically developing game content, all player driven.
Gratuitous space battles.
They have accidentally the ideal MMO sort of setup.
Yes.
But
they have also made a random and out of the blue decision.
Yes.
Yes. They got bought up by the Black Desert
day as
guys.
the decision to close WildStar, by the way.
Yes. They got bought up by the Black Desert Online guys.
Black Desert's crap. Like, I don't like it. I think it looks hideous, and you spend most of your time traveling.
A fun combat system wrapped in mediocrity and grey paste.
Yeah, I mainly remember the mediocrity and grey paste, to be honest. Like, it's not. I do not like it. I do not like them, Sam. I am.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
no.
Do not like them richety old boob fairies, I guess. Creepy big teeth smoke monster.
Yeah, it's like this is like I'm normally totally okay with like. Well, I play Terra for crying out loud, but I don't like the weird booby ladies they have in Black Desert. They seem sort of shiny and unnatural.
Yeah.
And as I said, I play Terra. Like, my tolerance for bizarre proportions is pretty high, relatively speaking. But
we have survived the general chat of Terra.
Incidentally, saying that you play Terra probably puts you on some sort of government watch list. Just saying.
But I'm on so many of those already that like, it's probably neither here nor there at this point.
I really hope no government agency ever finds the Discord logs for me and Volocel. We're dead. We'll be disappeared.
Yeah. So yeah, that one was a bit surprising.
Yeah, and there are lots of people who are saying that this is the death knell for Eve, but I don't really think that there's really much difference. You spend most of your time traveling, and there doesn't really seem to be much going on other than drama. Like, this is exactly the way it works in Eve anyway. So
yeah, Eve is all about
Black Desert.
And yeah, both Eve and Black Desert are all about trading, economy, except occasionally Eve will just erupt into full-blown war.
Well, I think Black Desert could probably learn a bit from that. It might be a more interesting game if it happens now and again.
Just get the players to line up in a field and just beat the ever-loving snot out of each other.
Yeah.
They've got some. They've got some nice big fields they can use for it.
Yeah, but
the nature of this acquisition is not very clear from the articles I've seen on it. So there's a lot of questions about who's in control of what.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. This could be a storm over nothing, and the Eve players just being the Eve players, but it could be bad. We don't know. Well, I suppose it's best to assume the worst nowadays. But
Black Desert hasn't imploded or anything, but I think mainly it hasn't imploded because it would be so hard to tell if it had.
It's got its dedicated player base, the people who are just right into that sort of thing.
Yeah, it hasn't exploded in the dramatic fashion that some of the really explosive MMOs have. Like, by and large, it's been relatively stable all up. Yeah, it seems surprising to me. Like, I always thought that CCP was pretty stable, but they're branching out and attempting to do other things that have been unsuccessful. Must have cost them enough that they're willing to entertain ownership by another business now.
Didn't they try to poke into VR and stuff?
Yeah. It wasn't very successful. I think that's not really their fault. Like, I don't think VR is successful, period. Like, and I say this as somebody who's got one of the darn things. Like, I don't think that it's a good idea. The technology is just not there, and I am not sure that it ever will be at this point. Like, the fact is that this particular iteration has gone through 3 times now. We have had a serious boom of interest in VR and attempts to drive it as a major method of engagement with video game content, and it has flopped every time now. And I'm not sure what would cause it to flop the same way every time, unless it is simply just not what people want. Period. What we don't actually want. That's what I'm starting to think is the case.
Yeah,
I don't know. If I was in marketing for these companies, I'd be like, no, let the people that have this as a passion project figure it out first, and then we try VR. We don't try it as a gimmick. It's a bad idea. We're going to lose money.
Yeah, unless you got one of those games where it costs literally nothing to put it in.
Yeah, I think
like Elite Dangerous, I mean.
But yeah, so I think that project probably cost them. It was a risky project. I'm not really sure that there's any. I'm not really sure that much will change. I don't think that you can. I think that even the Black Desert people will see that Eve has, after its own fashion, a winning formula already.
As long as they don't
And-
mess with it too much, I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, I think that they will probably try and massage it, but I don't think that they'll try to do anything drastic.
Okay, so that's that. What else does we have?
Y'all dug up all the MMO stuff this week, so I'm not sure how y'all want to tackle those. There's a few more.
Let me see. That's last week. We've talked about that. We talked about that. You really want to talk about Aeon?
Or you're the only one. You guys are the only ones that have played it. I haven't played it.
I've played it for maybe about 10 minutes.
I remember thinking that when it got released, it looked pretty. But
It
you've
did.
done nothing but bash on its appearance ever since. So.
It has
When it
not
came out,
aged
I
well.
played it for like somewhere between 1 and 3 months when it first came out. Very first came out, just to get a break from WoW. And yeah, I don't have that much attachment to the game. Like it has all the trappings of vanilla WoW without the organic community that grew out of it.
Yeah.
Wings are cool, flying's cool, but
You
from
gotta
what I
have
remember,
something
it's
else.
got a really, yeah, it was just a prettier WoW that still had the same clunky vanilla WoW mechanics strewn everywhere, attunements and all that fun stuff.
When I played it maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it still had all the clunky vanilla WoW mechanics. Whereas
Yeah.
WoW has since moved on, Aeon has not.
Yeah, and yeah, it just doesn't get any coverage. It never really has outside of its first year. But it is just one of those MMOs that came out and made a boom for like a few months and then disappeared.
Yeah. There's plenty of those. So
But,
anyway,
yeah, the West is getting the 6.0 patch, I guess.
Yep.
I didn't know it was still going. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I hadn't heard it closing. Usually, when an MMO closes, it makes news and we talk about it. But yeah, I was kind of surprised to hear it was still around.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll have a quick flick through, see what they actually add. Let's see. The article doesn't say.
Yeah, it's a very bare bones article, and it looks like the update's done in a YouTube video, which I'm not going to watch.
Not going to watch that,
Oh,
no.
The reality is that there's probably not enough people care in order to justify writing a detailed article on it. So,
That's a bit brutal.
well, how many people in the West do you think still play Ion?
3.
Yeah,
The
like even going to the Aeon website, it's just a link to the dumb video. Like it's 20 minutes. I'm not going to sit there and listen to the patch notes.
Well, the people that play Ion probably care a lot about the content of that 20 minutes. So
Hmm.
But yeah, it's still around, I guess.
It's still a thing.
But yeah, it's just a fairly generic fantasy MMO with
Yeah.
wings, and you can fly.
All right.
And
And you
that
can
was
be
novel
like-
back before flying mounts.
you can be like an edgy Bishonen stuff.
Yeah, you can. Everybody's pretty in that game, and the dark race has like high heels for feet. It looks really weird.
Yeah, the guys
Well,
are edgy
yeah.
and the women are really disturbingly seductive.
For the dark skinned race, like they're the Svartalf type elves in this universe, and they have like weird claws everywhere. And if you look on their feet, the girls have just natural high heels.
Yeah, it's
From
really
a giant
weird.
spike from a giant spike on the back of their foot. It looks really weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have not played it. I don't have any point of reference.
Yeah, my experience was, okay, there's a big patch for this, I'm gonna try it. 10 minutes later, I am really bored now.
Yeah. The only thing I remember from the 1 to 3 months of playing is I could fly around and my girl had giant natural high heels.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this a plus or a minus?
It's a
just
what?
a thing. I'm fairly neutral on it. It's just a thing I noticed all the time because it stands out when you're looking at the character from the backside all the time. It's like, honey, your heels are natural.
Why? Why are
They
they
ain't
like
small
that?
either.
No.
I'm pretty sure that's not how feet are supposed to work.
She could kill a man with those things.
Why do you even have the rest of your foot? Why don't you just have a hoof? How did this happen?
Alright. What else we got? Just the usual go broke woke stuff.
It's not my fault.
I
It's
know.
the news, man.
And it's bad, and I don't want to talk about it because it's awful.
I'm in a conflicting mindset. It is worth talking about, but it's also gives attention to these people.
Well, the thing is that these aren't really these people. These are Riot.
Well, one of them.
Oh, Riot.
The other
Yeah,
is
the Riot
these
one.
people.
Yeah, the Riot one we probably should talk about, but because talking about them won't give them any new traffic they don't already have anyway.
Like, if these are big companies doing this get woke, go broke stuff, like, I think it behooves us to inform people how they're spending their money. The same way that I think that it was relevant to talk about the Crunchyroll thing, because Crunchyroll had broken their compact with their subscribers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is how we tell people how to spend their money, because using your wallet is the only way you've got of meaningfully protesting them.
Let's see. I'm trying to find the where we stuck the Riot Games one. Did we stick that one? Oh, here it is.
Yep.
Okay, so I did not actually finish this article because it was too cringy to read from what I understood.
Yes.
Like, so...
I'm
I don't
going to leave
even
this
know how
one
to
to
open
you
this up.
because League of Legends is always just a terrible point for me.
All right, so
I'm not really a League of Legends person either.
from what I understand, League of Legends at the next PAX is going to have a room set up for getting people into
Is this the next PAX or the one that was just happened? Like,
PAX West.
days ago.
I don't know. I don't know PAX
Because-
schedules.
a PAX just got done.
Yeah. Like, right
And the
just this
fact that they-
weekend.
Yeah, so I think it's probably at the one that just happened. I don't think this is something that is going to happen.
Well, the next PAX is PAX Australia.
Yeah. So PAX West, I think, is the one that just happened.
Yeah.
So PAX Bay Area fiasco, basically.
So yeah, this is probably one of the biggest virtue signaling things we've seen from a developer, maybe ever. At the PAX, they're going to have a little room set up, and only girls can go into that room to get them into the game.
Not just girls.
Non-binary folk, but I don't want to get into that.
Anyone who makes up their own gender plus girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, you can say some words and get in there, but it's really scummy the way that comes off. Like,
You cannot change that. You cannot change the excluded group to any other group and not, get abused by everybody for it.
yeah,
Yeah. Because, hey, that's still
Like, just
discrimination.
flip the genders. Flip the genders. Like, even keep all the non-binary folk in as if they're a real thing, and then say, okay, so the only people that are allowed to come into this panel are men and non-binary folks, because women just aren't interested in this kind of thing. It's not relevant to them.
yeah.
And-
Like, do you think anybody's going to swallow that? Do you think anybody would allow that for 5 minutes to stand without being denounced?
Yeah, it demonstrates the level of doublethink we've seen, especially in the game industry, for the progressive left and its takeover, and the sheer damage the rot has caused. Like, the fact that they don't see this as discrimination just blows my mind. Like, they just don't get it.
I know Fern doesn't like belaboring the point, but the issue is this, quite simply: get woke, go broke. If you disagree, and you aren't obliged to disagree just because we do, just if you disagree with this sort of blatant bigotry, then you've got a way of expressing that disagreement by abandoning Riot and Riot product. Period. End.
Or at the very least, abandoning giving them money.
Mm.
Like, you've got to make that sort of decision. Some people just don't think that boycotts are ever effective, and you can support that point of view, because a lot of the time they're not. Usually because people have no spine. But
it's about your personal convictions on this stuff. If you don't want to support it, I would encourage you to put your wallet where your mouth is.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there are other companies that understand that when these people come after you, you double down on not caring what they think, because like Fern and Ari say, they don't like to give attention to these people, and that's correct, because these people thrive on it. They really do. But it's sort of, you know, I consider it an important task to make sure people at least know, because this sort of entryism is done with the intention of distorting the way the medium is and the way the medium is perceived going forward. Like, they aren't, you can't convince me that they decided to make 50% of the people in Battlefield 5 women and 50% of them black because they actually think that that's what the sex and race composition was during the Second World War.
Oh,
like, you can't convince me that you can't convince me that they actually believe that.
There's another point to be made here, actually, while we're on that quick topic. Don't say white people in the game, you'll get censored.
They are claiming now that that's just a bug. That somehow their language filter has a bug in it that prevents people from saying certain phrases.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the funnier one is that it prevents people from saying DLC.
That one's actually kind of funny, but also annoying. And if nobody believes that for a moment.
Well, I think that you could make a case that the DLC thing was attempting to censor the word dick.
I guess.
If you were very generous to them, very patient with them. But censoring exclusively the phrase white men is a lot harder to excuse.
Oh, dear.
Anyway.
But yeah, the other important thing about this is it's less of the fact that there's a room for girls at this thing and more of the context and how it's set up and the way it's presented. Where this is clearly part of a diversity initiative. They've admitted to it, like they've explicitly said that.
Yeah,
they
might have gotten 100% on board with the whole push to turn games political and progressive. Like,
yeah.
there was a time where people didn't actually care to make their games explicitly political, but it's sort of become obligatory at this point.
Yeah.
Like, people won't stand for you not being on one team or another, apparently.
Yeah,
this
there's
seems to be the way people think now.
Yeah.
That's more my problem with this, is the way it's rooting politics into video games harder, more than there's a room for girls at PAX. I would not care if there's a room for girls at PAX for this one game if they weren't trying to make it a thing to drive politics into games even harder.
Yeah, like,
but
has anyone seen this range is pretty far though. I mean, have anyone seen the interview by Eurogamer about Cyberpunk 2077?
No. Oh, yeah.
Fully 75% of that interview is about gender pronouns.
He's trying to talk about the games, and every time he says a pronoun, the interviewer corrects him. Every time.
There's... What you can do, folks, is stop caring about word choice and pronouns and just listen to the root of the conversation. It makes things much easier. It makes your life easier, and it makes these people frustrated with you to no end.
Stop making it.
And it's wonderful.
And, you know, I wouldn't have a problem with them sticking their oar in like this if it was entertaining.
But it's not.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. But the thing is, you can do political and entertaining, like Doom. Like when we were talking about Doom, that's actually a funny joke. Having the AI talk about how important it is that we help, savage demons from hell integrate into Earth's society because Earth is a melting pot. I thought that was really funny.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah,
it is implicitly, though not explicitly, political because it is parodying something that people actually say about, terrorists from the Middle East.
But you skip ahead 20 years when this may not be a relevant issue. It's still just a funny joke that exists in the game. It's not there to be political specifically. It's there to be funny, and they just draw from a political context.
Well, almost. You've got Demon Kid. And now I feel filthy just for saying that.
And you should. Hang your head, sir.
I'm going to stick my head into some of this really elaborate medical equipment.
I don't want to share my world with those people.
But yeah, you can even take this in a serious direction and just say, we're trying to get girls into games. Here's a little booth you can come at and you can talk to us there, and we'll keep it where you can talk to other girls about games. You could do that. That would be fine.
That would be
the problem
excellent,
is
actually. Totally do that.
You can totally do that. That's great. What you're doing here, though, is just feeding this narrative of we don't care about anything except for what pronouns and genders are used in our games. We're not using them effectively. We just care about which ones.
I think that the really poisonous narrative underneath it all, though, is that there is supposed to be some sort of obligatory war between the sexes, that they're against each other. It must be set against each other in an aggressive fashion at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope that wall doesn't get built.
That's the core narrative here, is that men and women are diametrically opposed. Not that they're complementary, but that they are opposed.
And more than that, they're enemies with each other, and they must hate each other, is what this narrative goes all the way down to at its most extreme.
Yeah, so, but this is basically, this is cultivation, not just bigotry, but cultivation of bigotry. Like, going to this thing is an endorsement of that point of view, basically. That, there are certain things that we should exclude a certain group of people from because they just deserve to be excluded.
Yeah.
But there's no way to frame that in a nice way. And in any other context, it would be considered abhorrent by everybody. But this is the way that you show that you're a good person to the certain types of people that live in Seattle or wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this narrative was fact around the entire world and my region of the U.S. didn't have to be mostly exempt from it, I wouldn't have anybody to play a tabletop with.
I mean, the core thing that you've got to remember, though, is that you dictate the terms to these people in the end. It is true that progressives are willing to spend a huge amount of money and they're willing to lose a huge amount of money in order to further their message. However, that is not a sustainable model, even if George Soros is backing it, because he's going to die eventually. But so you need to know who is responsible for this. Riot is responsible. Riot is endorsing a strictly bigoted outlook here. That there should be gender segregation. As much as they like to harp on about how, oh no, the Republican government's going to institute the Handmaid's Tale, as absurd as that is, this is actual gender segregation at work. This is what it looks like. Okay, so Riot is indulging in this. DICE is indulging in this. They have bent history in order to accommodate an ideal that exists only in their own heads, and they are telling people that they are stupid and uneducated if they don't think that it is the truth. They explicitly said that if you don't agree with our changing the gender composition of World War II, it is because you are uneducated, and therefore you should not buy the game. They explicitly said, don't buy the game if you don't agree with it.
Okay, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, so don't buy from DICE either. These are the things you've got to do. If you want to show these people that you're a customer and that therefore you need to be respected as such, you need to behave in the way a customer does when they're disrespected, which is to stop being one.
And take your money somewhere else.
And from talks with people in marketing, which I know quite a few of, at bigger companies, you may feel like you don't have a whole lot of power with your wallet. You may see articles that say boycotts fail and all that. But here's the dealio. Decreases in profits are still decreases in profits, even if they're small, and companies have to respond to board members at meetings when it comes to the stockholders.
And what's more, if you tell other people, long term that ends up being decreases in stock prices, and a lot of money can get lost with that. The ad campaign that Nike started this week past, based on Colin Kaepernick, they lost $3 billion overnight.
Ooh, what was that one all about?
$3 billion in stock prices. Oh, they basically posted this. They've basically given Colin Kaepernick, the guy who kneels during the US national anthem, washed up football quarterback. They gave him a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal to basically look somber in black and white photographs, along with the caption saying something like, something to do with something to standing for something, even if you have to sacrifice everything, when the only thing he sacrificed is not having a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal.
Yeah.
He basically they're portraying him as a martyr to a great cause, when the only thing he did was insult the entire nation of America and receive millions and millions and millions of dollars from Nike for being like a quarter black,
for being a twat.
Yeah.
But they made a huge deal about this, and Nike literally lost like $3 billion in stock prices overnight.
What's that saying again?
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah, what's that saying? Go woke, get woke, go broke.
Yeah.
Same story there.
And I think that I don't know if they were just, cynically trying to cash in on a group of people who don't normally buy Nikes, or whether, I don't know, maybe Nikes are super, super popular with the African American community and they think that they can secure their business more reliably this way, which I doubt, because if it was already really popular, it's not going to become more popular. Or if they're actually sending a political signal to the right people to give them additional investment. There are lots of reasons, but it doesn't really matter. In the end, that whole thing is incredibly poor taste, since, the whole purpose of Colin Kaepernick's protest is that he hates cops. And cops die all the time to protect people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're the ones that actually sacrifice everything. So to put Colin Kaepernick up on a poster saying that he's sacrificed everything to be a multi-millionaire, that's not going to go well with people, and it shows. People objected to it. They objected loud and long, and as such, Nike's going to have to backpedal on this, unless they want to keep losing stock. Because in one day, their stock prices dropped 3 full percent points.
Wow,
that's giant. By the way, for those of you that don't know,
that is huge.
That is not the biggest I've seen, but it's pretty dang up there. You don't want that to happen.
You can't cover this crap up in the age of social media. If you make a faux pas, it's a faux pas that everybody will see and the internet remembers forever. So
yeah, and there's a.
At what point does it go from a faux pas to a screw up?
I think it depends on your audience. But
yeah.
So
but yeah, my go ahead.
I'm just saying you need to keep track of these and decide whether it's worth it under your convictions to modify your purchase habits, who you buy from and what you buy, based on how they treat you as a person, how they treat you as a customer, because you are the one who pays their bills. Ultimately, you pay their bills.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was getting at before was that's still a pretty big example, a very visible example of them getting bit in the butt for this stuff. You will not always see the ramifications of deciding not to pay somebody. If you decide not to give a company money, it may be just enough that in the board meeting 6 months down the road, when they're reviewing how much money they got from their product, if it's gone down enough, they're going to make some changes. You don't have control over what those are, but they can possibly see, oh, maybe it was because we did this stupid diversity thing that we lost, 2% of our profits. And they'll have to explain that to a board who will say, fix it.
Yeah, and oftentimes people end up leaving companies, as has happened with DICE.
Leaving or being leaved.
Yeah, being leaved is the usual way.
Yes.
Yeah, another thing to note when you're not giving money to people is do not, in this age, there is no example I have where a company that has started going downhill hard has been able to rally strong enough to be worth the time invested and the money invested in the meantime to continue supporting them in the hopes that they get better. I do not think it's a wise decision. Yeah.
I've never seen anyone pull out of that death spiral. Once they decide that their politics is more important than their product, it's usually over for them. They never produce anything worth a damn ever again. The closest thing that I've ever seen to doing that, to accomplishing that, is actually Blizzard. Because Blizzard, rather than actually going into a death spiral, have flirted with the death spiral at length, but never actually gone full retard. Because, they know that they've got to sort of toe that line where they can look like they're pandering, but not actually pander all the way, because the backlash would be too stiff. They have taken, really, really lurching strides towards indulging in this sort of anti-consumer behavior in the past, but have always been pulled back at the last second before going too far. But nobody who has ever actually gone all the way have I ever seen come back and reform. No, individuals do, companies don't. Once money has a lot of inertia, it's not going to change the direction and momentum once it really gets going.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Anyway,
the point is, you have more power than you think you do with your wallet.
Yeah.
You just don't see it immediately all the time. So if you are convinced that something's a bad idea and a company's treating you bad and you don't like what they're doing, don't give them money. Even if you don't see
Ultimately-
what happens, something's still going to come of it if enough people do it.
Ultimately, even though I have political opinions on the topic, this isn't about politics. This is about how you get treated as a customer. You're bringing them your money and you're asking for their product. They say something like, "You're stupid and uneducated, don't buy our product." I suggest that you follow that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You'll notice we're carefully choosing words to avoid the topic that Riot was on specifically when we're talking about this as a bigger concept.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
Anyway, let's leave that one there.
That's time. So it's time to wrap up.
Yeah. Well, this is a long show. Y'all's weeks went really long. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else really worth jumping into right now. Just a few announcements and small stuff. We can leave it for later in case they get more news. Okay. Email topic of the week. You actually write me on the previous email topics of the week, and I'll give you one. Let's see.
Right about the
Let's see.
redundancy of the email topic of the week.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to let it die as a running joke, because people used to get mad I didn't give one every week, and now they don't write us anymore. Oh, but yeah. All right, closing comments go.
Where is the time? Give me back my time.
Yeah, it'll be nice to play some video games without the 1000% speed button.
I don't even
Play
know
some
what
better
it would
video
feel like
games.
that time anymore. Like, at least, like, you've got a light at the end of the tunnel that may or may not be an on train. Like, you could find more drivers for your business and assume a normal roster. I don't think my work's gonna get any better anytime soon. In fact, it sounds a lot like it's gonna get worse. Like, the number of people that are toying with just resigning, even though they don't have another job waiting for them, is going up day by day.
Ooh, that's not
So-
good.
Yeah.
You got feelers out for a replacement job yet? Just in case?
I've got feelers out. They aren't feeling very much though. That's the problem. Like, I don't have the capital to make any big moves,
Hmm.
so I have to keep it relatively local for the time being. But yeah, I'm gradually accumulating capital. So, Ari, if you ever buy that house, you got a spare room.
Once I get it, if I can rent out a room, I will. I've told you before the conditions that'll make me go get it. It's just it's not so much a time frame as there are triggers that will make it happen.
The job market is sharply declining since the Labour government got elected. Like, confidence in business, as it does under most leftist governments, has plummeted because it always results in more regulation. So
Mhm.
The less a company can direct itself, the less it can cater to its employees, and thus business goes down.
and they're planning to force the minimum wage up to $18 an hour. So that's going to
That's
going to
problems.
basically, it's going to sink a lot of small businesses unless it comes accompanied by massive business tax cuts. So
Yes.
And that's up to where we were, relatively speaking, playing with our currency conversions in the ballpark of them last time before the most recent hike we had on minimum wage. And that destroyed small businesses here.
But
Anyway.
with no new businesses opening and smaller ones in danger because the minimum wage changes, like, I am keen to find a place to go that is not here as soon as possible.
Anyway, take us out, Ari.
Ari?
Oh no, he's died.
There we go. No, my internet was being dead, so I was punching it. Okay, we're back. All right, folks, I think we're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara, bye-bye.